Greetings, students, and welcome to your first activity section here in psychology. So since we have an exam this week, I wanted to do something that wouldn't take quite as long for our learning activity for this week. So we're going to do a little research. We're going to kind of figure out what happens when brains go wrong, because that's when we learn a lot about brains, right? We figure out so much about how the human brain works when people's brains go wrong. So in your textbook, they talked about Phineas Gage and that famous injury of his with that giant rod through his head, and how much we learned about his function because he could still function as a person. So we learned a lot about the brain from something like that. So for today, you're going to be able to choose between 3 different injuries, illnesses, okay? Only one is an illness, technically 2 are injuries. So you may choose CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy. You also may choose TBI, that is traumatic brain injury, or you can choose Alzheimer's, right? So we have 3 options. If you didn't remember the 3 options, I put them in the discussion board post that's underneath us. So you can go down and look there if you didn't catch that. So when you pick your disease, what you're going to do is go onto the internet and try to learn something about it, right? You may have never heard of any of these before, or maybe you're a sports fan and you definitely have. So here's the information that I want you guys to gather from the internet and put into your discussion board post. First, which injury and disease did you choose and why did you choose it? I want to know why you picked this one. How does the injury or disease appear in the first place? Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. So. And then, what did you learn about the symptoms in relation to specific brain damage? So like specific parts of the brain are damaged to cause specific symptoms. What did you learn about that? And then finally, how do people know they have this injury or illness? How does it present? Do they get headaches? Do they get forgetful? What's going on with that? Okay. So we're going to look up the disease, right? You're going to tell me why you picked that disease. You're going to tell me how that appears, how we diagnose somebody with that disease, how it specifically messes up their brain, right? And the symptoms, okay? All of that is also in the discussion board post down below my head in your weekly stuff. So if you've forgotten any of the questions or want to have them up while you're looking through the internet, you can pull up the discussion board post, and that's all you have to do for the discussion board post, guys, this week. Normally I would write one too, but it kind of gives away the answer, so I can't. But once you've done the discussion board post, you're good to go and move on to the exam. All right, so that's our activity for this week. I look forward to seeing what you guys find out down in the discussion board.